even louder than they were for the memorial. They're all jumping on me, giving me high fives while still singing Juice WRLD. Even though I've never felt more disgusting in my entire life, there was something beautiful about that sense of community I felt in that moment. But still, I immediately went home to take a shower, didn't even go to my next class. Now there's two types of embarrassments you can go through. Physical embarrassment, like the trash can, or mental embarrassment, which is what I experienced one time on yearbook picture day. And before I get into this, you need to understand the level of seriousness that yearbook picture day carried in my household. My mom treated this day like my wedding. The night before, she would pick out my outfit. The morning of, she would do my hair. She would not let me leave the house unless I looked perfect. And the reason the stakes were so high is because she was sending these photos to everyone. Every grandparent, every cousin, every dog, even that one creepy uncle everyone has, which I wonder what he would do with those photos. But basically every person who had ever met me or heard my name or been in the same room as me was probably getting those photos sent to them. So picture day morning, my mom gets me all ready and I'm walking through school being super careful. I'm making sure no one gets within an arm's reach of my hair to possibly mess it up. But then lunch happens, and at lunch on this day, I had pesto pasta. Sounds delicious, right? Well, it was. So I eat my food, no big deal. Lunch ends, and right after lunch was the time where my class was going to take our school picture. But here's exactly where everything went wrong. Because for some reason, it did not go through my mind once to check how I looked before taking that picture. I just assumed I looked exactly the same way I did when I originally got to school. So I get to the photographer, step up, smile, and the photographer takes the picture in about 3 seconds. I leave thinking I'm looking like handsome Squidward, but fast forward a couple months and our yearbooks come out. And yearbook day was always a time where the school is buzzing. People walking around, signing each other's books, flipping through the photos. So I grab mine. And of course, first thing I do is flip straight to my page. I'm looking for all the last names with V on it so I can find myself. And I ain't gonna lie, your boy was looking fresh in his picture. Except for one thing. Right in the center of my smile, shining bright, is a piece of pesto. Not a small speck you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. Nah, this thing literally looked neon green compared to everything else. And it was in my teeth, in a yearbook every student at school had a copy of. If you flip to the page this picture was on, the first thing your eyes would go to is that piece of pesto. So kids are all coming up to me saying stuff like,
"Nice yearbook photo, Tyler."
"Yeah, I'm talking specifically about you, Gerald. Don't think I forgot what you did that day. Also, I heard about your grandma. Rest in peace." But anyways, I was getting cooked by everyone in school, and deservedly so. They all saw the pic. You would think most people wouldn't even flip to the page my picture was on since my last name starts with V. But no, everyone saw it. But that wasn't even the worst part, because like I said, my school picture was way more important to my mom than it was to me. So they gave me the pictures my mom ordered, and I had to bring them home to her. I knew this was gonna be bad. I tried to think of ways to not give her the photos, like maybe on my way home from school, I got jumped and the person stole the photos. But who's jumping a 12-year-old boy? So I just accepted. I have to give her these photos. I hand her the envelope. She opens it, looking super excited to see her boy with his amazing smile. But she pulls the picture out and goes like this.
Okay, let's see.
No words. And she didn't even need to say any. Her facial expressions did all the talking. And if you're wondering, no, she definitely did not send those pictures out to family and friends. Did any of our family or friends actually care about ever getting the pictures? I doubt it. But still, my mom did it. And if it's important to my mom, it's important to me. But what wasn't important to me at all at the time was actually doing my schoolwork. I know it's bad. Don't be like me. But because I didn't care about doing the work, to pass the time in class, me and my friends would pass notes to each other. We'd write something on a piece of paper, ball it up, and throw it to each other from across the room. This class was super boring, and our teacher never let us talk in it, so this was basically the only way to communicate. The only problem was, me and my friends sat on opposite sides of the classroom, so whenever our teacher wasn't looking, we would quickly throw the papers to each other. All the students in this class knew about it, and they would help us to make sure we never got caught. If our throw wasn't accurate enough, they would finish the job. And my friend and I weren't saying anything important in these notes. We weren't asking questions that actually mattered. No, most of the time, it was just something really stupid written inside it that would make the other person laugh when opening it. So one day, we're doing this, but I miscalculated how long our teacher would turn around and look at the whiteboard. Because when she wasn't looking, I threw the paper to my friend, but then she turned back around while it was in midair and she saw him catch it. So she's got this angry look on her face. She walks over, picks up the paper that was just thrown, and in that specific moment, I'm just thinking one thing. Please do not read what's on that note out loud. Please just take it, look at it privately, punish us, whatever. Just do not read the words on that paper to the entire class. What did she do? She read the note to the entire class. She holds it up and reads out loud exactly what was written on it. And you know what I wrote? "I think I'm on my period right now, bro." That was the message we decided was so important that throwing it across the classroom during class was worth the risk. Now, without context, it sounds like I should be checked into a mental hospital, but that was the entire joke. Imagine opening up a message your friend sneakily threw to you thinking it must be important, but then you open it up and it just says, "I'm on my period, bro." The only problem was the teacher teacher reading it, and all the students didn't have any of that context. So the class completely loses it. They go fully uncontrollable laughing. And we cannot say a single thing because there's no explanation that makes us look better. We just had to sit there in silence while the teacher stared at us with an expression I can only describe as exhaustion. She didn't even know how to respond to what she was holding. She didn't know what punishment fitted, and that note became a piece of class history. And for the rest of the year, randomly, someone would just repeat what I said in that note in the middle of a quiet moment. It was like the class's new catchphrase. And whenever it was said, the class would always react. We didn't really get punished for doing that, but I definitely did get punished for this next story, which is about how I got caught cheating in the most spectacular way possible. This isn't just your typical boring cheating on a test story. No, because one time I had a test coming up that I really needed to pass. Not just scrape by on, but like I needed to get an A+ because I was in trouble academically and this test mattered. But if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I just cannot get myself to study. Never been able to do it. So I was in a predicament. I needed to crush this test, but I couldn't do that without studying. But I wasn't gonna study. Then I came up with what I believed was a genuinely brilliant plan. I would write all the answers on the back label of my water bottle and just read them off the bottle during the test. In my head, this was perfect. The bottle sits on my desk looking exactly like a normal water bottle. I glance at it casually. Nobody notices anything because it's just a water bottle. But what I did not account for was the fact that my teacher had been teaching for years, and she had watched teenagers try to cheat in every possible way imaginable. So test day comes, notes are written on my water bottle, it's sitting on my desk, and I'm working through the questions. And honestly, it's going pretty well. The teacher's at her desk, the room is quiet, nobody's looking at me. I'm starting to think I might actually get away with this. But then she gets up from her desk and announces she needs to step outside for a second to check on something. I hear her walk toward the door behind us. I then hear the door open and then I hear it close. So I'm thinking, okay, teacher's gone, which is great because now I can rip the label off my bottle and see the answers more clearly and get a bunch of the questions done while she's gone. So that's what I do. I'm not just glancing at the water bottle anymore. I rip the notes completely off the back of it, unfold them, and I'm holding them open in my hands. I'm feeling confident, but then something weird starts happening. Kids nearby start looking at me. Every few seconds, one of them glances over and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Why does everyone around me keep looking at me right now? So I finally turn around to check and my teacher is standing directly behind my desk, looking straight down at me. Wait, but hold on. I heard her leave the classroom and I never heard her come back in. So what was going on? Well, according to my friend that sits in the back of class, she never actually left the room. She opened the door, let it shut, and then came walking up behind me to watch me cheat. She was standing behind me watching me cheat for 2 whole minutes. And here's the part that makes me realize how badly I executed this. She knew I was cheating before she even got up from her desk. That's why she pretended leaving the classroom in the first place. So then she put her hand out, said, "Give it to me." I hand over my test and I take the 0. She was playing chess, I was playing checkers. It's crazy how the type of teacher you have can really make or break how you do in that class. And that was especially true in my Spanish class. Because before I tell you this next painfully embarrassing story, I gotta give you some background. I sucked in Spanish class. Okay, that's all the background. But anyways, one time we had to do a video project for it. The assignment was simple. Make a short video of yourself acting out a real world scenario in Spanish. Pick a situation, film yourself doing it, speak Spanish the whole time, turn it in, and then present it to the class. It had to be 2 minutes long. My scenario was having dinner with my friends. Easy concept, very manageable, should have required almost no effort to do correctly. So I filmed the whole video with my friends and we do it pretty quickly. I actually started to think to myself,
Dang, this was a lot easier than I thought.
so I get to school the next day and it's my turn to play the video. I'm feeling good thinking everyone in class is gonna love this. I'm probably gonna get such a good grade. But then the teacher actually puts on my video. And there's one problem with it. Because when I start talking in the video, everyone gives me a weird look, especially the teacher. I have no idea why until I start paying a little more attention. And that's when I realize I filmed the entire thing talking in English. Not a single part was in Spanish. It wasn't like I slipped up and accidentally said, "Yo, pass the salt," instead of "Pasame le sol." I don't even know if that's the correct translation. I just Googled that. But point is, the entire video, start to finish, was in 100% English. No Spanish at all. Cero. See what I did there? And here's the part that I genuinely cannot explain. I never realized I was even doing it. It wasn't because of laziness that I filmed it in English or because I didn't know Spanish. I mean, well, I don't, but the teacher is just sitting there looking at the screen with an expression that goes beyond confusion. And what excuse can I even make for why I did this?
Oh, sorry, teacher. You just need to press the translate button and then it'll be in Spanish. Got you.
That won't work. The truly absurd part is that I still got a C. I got a C on a Spanish video that contained 0 Spanish, which I think was just because my teacher felt more sad for me than anything and gave me that grade out of pity. But to be honest, if I actually did film the whole thing in Spanish, I probably still would have gotten a C. So honestly, I don't even regret doing that. Now imagine this. It's your first day of school. You walk into your first class of the day, find a seat, and sit through the entire period. Nothing unusual. And then you go to the rest of your classes. Then you go home thinking the first day went totally fine. And the next morning, you come back to school, walk into that same classroom, and you're about to sit down until you notice your seat from yesterday is taken. Somebody's in your spot. You think this is kind of weird because this class has assigned seats. So you go up to the teacher and say,
"Hey, I think someone's sitting in my seat."
And then the teacher looks over at you and asks for your name. So you give it to her. But then she says, "I don't see your name on my class roster." So you say,
"I'm sorry."
Well, you weren't supposed to be here yesterday either. You're not enrolled in this class.
But the part that's not making sense is when you pull out your schedule, it says you're supposed to be in room 12. So you ask the teacher what room you're in, and she says 12B, which apparently is something different from just room 12. So you ask her where room 12 without the B is, and she says it's the one right next to this one. So you walk into that classroom next door 5 minutes late, and the teacher goes,
"Ah, you must be Tyler."
and you say yes, because that's your name, and she says,
"Tyler, why did you have an unexcused absence yesterday and you're late today?"
and you say, you weren't absent, you were just 20 feet over and separated by a wall. She doesn't ask you to elaborate, she just tells you to go sit down. Well, that's what happened to me on my first day one year. And from that point on, I had PTSD anytime I tried walking into class on the first day. I was always thinking I walked into the wrong one. The worst part was, it looked like I just ditched on my first day. Now you may be thinking this happened because I'm dumb, but if you think that was dumb, you're gonna think I'm a lot dumber after what I'm gonna tell you next. Because I sat beside a girl in one of my classes who I had never met before. Didn't even know she existed before we had this class together. And we were in these seats for a whole semester. So of course, we got to know each other a little bit. Her name was Jessica, and we talked during class, but that was about it. But there was something really weird I noticed about sitting next to her. Every time I would get to class, I'd go,
"Hey, Jessica."
and she'd give me this confused look every single day. And I'd always think to myself, does she just hate me or something? Is this how everyone reacts on the inside when they see me? She just can't hide it? Then one day, about halfway through the school year, we're sitting in class and the teacher gets a phone call. She picks it up, has a short conversation, hangs up, and then she looks out at the room and says,
"Mary, they need you in the office."
you will never believe what happened next. The girl right next to me, Jessica, stands up and starts heading for the door. And I'm watching her walk out, trying to figure out what just happened. Because the teacher said Mary, but Jessica stood up. So I start scanning the room, trying to figure out if there was maybe another person also named Mary who also got up at the exact same time. But I'm not finding one. I'm going through it in my head. Did the teacher actually say Jessica and I somehow just misheard that for Mary? Well, the next day, I come in and Jessica is sitting at her desk. So I say,
"Hey, why did the teacher call you Mary yesterday?"
and she looks me in the eyes and goes,
"Because that's my name."
so I say,
"What? No, your name is Jessica."
"No, my name is Mary."
and I can feel the gears in my head start to turn for once in my life trying to solve this mystery. So I ask her,
"If your name is Mary, why have you been letting me call you Jessica this whole time? And also, why did I think your name was Jessica in the first place?"
and she just tells me that on the first day when I originally called her Jessica, she was gonna correct me, but the moment passed too quickly before she got the chance. And then a week went by of me calling her that, and at that point, it felt too awkward to correct me after that long. So she just kept answering whenever I called her Jessica. Every class, every day, for 4 months, she answered to a name that was not hers, rather than having one mildly uncomfortable conversation. And honestly, if I was Mary, I would have done the same thing. But then I asked her,
Wait, why did I think your name was Jessica in the first place?
I have no idea.
must have been the wind that told me Jessica was her name, because I still don't know where I pulled that from. This was a painful experience, I can't even lie. But at least this one was just one girl that I had an awkward encounter with. Because what if I told you there was a scenario where I got embarrassed by literally the whole school? What I'm about to say makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up just thinking about it because of how much I cringe. So every school year, there was 1 month where my school had a slow pitch softball competition at lunch. There was 8 teams and I was on one of them. And during this month, everyone would go watch the games during lunch. I can't even describe to you just how big of an event this was at my school. Think of it like the World Series, except the stakes were even higher. Because instead of winning money and a championship trophy, what was on the line was your entire social reputation. And as you all know, in school, being the most athletic kid means you're the most popular. It's why every kid wanted to be fast when they were younger. Well, that and so they can run away if a creepy old dude ever tries chasing them. No, that only happened to me. Okay, whatever. Point is, whatever you did in that softball game became what you were known for. If you did good, you were now popular. If you blew it, bye-bye any chance of being perceived as cool. But luckily for me, I was good at softball. Like genuinely. At least compared to all the other kids at my school. And my team was really good. So we ended up making it to the championship game, which literally every student at the school would come to watch. No exaggeration. This was honestly the most important thing I had done in my life up to that point. But the day of the championship game came, and I'm thinking, this is my moment. This is where everything changes. I had already played the whole thing out in my head like a movie. This is how it would go. I come up to bat, I see the pitch, I crush the pitch, we win the game, and I start dating the prettiest girl at school. That was the vision, but apparently my eyesight wasn't 20/20 because the game starts and it's close the whole time. I'm doing decent, but nothing special. But eventually we get to the final inning and we're tied. And guess who was coming up to bat? Tyler Vitelli, with a chance to walk off the game and become the hero. So when I step up to the plate, the crowd gets quiet, knowing I could win it right here. And I could just feel that something big is about to happen. The moment is exactly what I pictured. And I just make the decision right then and there that I am going to hit a home run. No doubt about it. The pitch comes in and I'm looking at it like this. Every muscle in my body is tensed up, getting ready to put all my force into this swing. And that's what I do, swing with everything I have, harder than I've ever swung at anything in my entire life. But right at the exact moment of contact, I miss. I swung and missed at the ball. You might think that's not embarrassing, but I left out one minor detail. During the swing, while everyone in the school is completely silent watching me, I farted. Not a little one, not the kind you can play off with a cough. No, it was just like this. And after I swing and miss, the crowd, which had been sitting there quietly, waiting for this great moment to happen, absolutely explode with laughter. Full on, there is no coming back from this laughter. And I'm standing there at the plate, and I know in my bones that it doesn't matter what I do next. It doesn't matter if I win the game. It doesn't matter if I strike out. This is the only thing that anyone is gonna remember about this game. I was right. For the rest of that school year, that was what I was known for. They called it the fart heard around the world. And what did I do when the next pitch came? I grounded out, and we ended up losing anyway. So this was basically the worst day of my life. From this point on, I made a vow. I would never, ever, for the rest of my life, fart again. Being a kid means being terrified of literally everything. The dark, quicksand, this haircut I just got. And when we get older, we grow out of most of these fears. But what if I told you there were certain fears from my childhood that I still have today? And it's all because of these stories I'm about to tell you. Including one about the time where an animatronic did something so terrifying to me that I vowed to never go back to Chuck E. Cheese. So I'm gonna tell you about all my childhood fears, and we're gonna decide whether they were actually realistic or not really scary at all. But before we get to the animatronic story, we gotta talk about the fear that literally every kid on the face of this earth has. JoJo, the fear of being kidnapped. And not just the fear of being kidnapped, but also white vans. No, not the shoes. These white vans. Those are still shoes. I'm talking about these white vans. Finally, there we go. I promise, I'm gonna fire my editor if he keeps acting up like this. LOL, no he isn't. What? Do you think I can't see this? What are you talking about? Anyways, I have a very specific reason for why I feared white vans growing up. Now I know, there's already a stigma around white vans. Like the person who's driving it is probably someone that's gonna offer you free candy, but then if you get in the van, you're gonna get kidnapped. So I'm growing up with this information being pumped into my brain constantly, and I'm already on high alert. I'm looking at every white van thinking, yep, there's definitely some kids trapped in there. But here's the thing that made this fear go from irrational to completely justified. Because there was actually someone in my neighborhood who had a white van. And at first, he seemed like a normal guy. He lived a few houses down, had a wife, seemed like he was just living his normal life. They'd wave at each other when he drove by. He'd say hi when we saw him at the mailbox. Just a regular dude with a white van trying to exist. I'd see his white van parked in his driveway and think, okay, well, my parents know him, so he must be one of the rare people who have a white van that won't kidnap you. And he actually made me start to think that people who drove white vans weren't kidnappers until one day when I'm coming home from school and I see police cars everywhere in my neighborhood. But not just one or two, I'm talking full SWAT team, multiple vehicles. The whole block is shut down and they're all at this dude's house, the white van guy's house. And I'm watching from my front yard as they bring this guy out in handcuffs and put him in a police car. So I'm thinking, what did he do? Did he rob a bank? Did he forget to pay his taxes? Nah, I wasn't thinking that. I didn't even know what taxes were at the time. To be honest, I still don't know what they are. But the point is, my child brain was trying to make sense of it. But later that night, I hear my parents talking about it in the kitchen. They wouldn't tell me directly what was going on, so I had to eavesdrop on their conversation in the hallway. And I hear them say the word murder. I'm thinking, oh, they must be talking about my mom's favorite soap opera or something like that. But I keep listening, and then I hear them say that our neighbor got arrested for murder. This man was actually out here doing unspeakable things, and we had no idea. We were just waving at a whole murderer every morning, and he had a white van. Like, could you have made it any more obvious, dude? I'm sure when the cops were doing their investigation, once they found out that this man had a white van, they immediately decided that he was guilty. Didn't even need any more evidence. So after that, I was convinced every single white van had a murderer inside it. I'd be at the grocery store with my mom and see a white van in the parking lot, and I'd say,
Mom, I love you, but I think we're about to get kidnapped.
if one was driving behind us on the road, I would say,
Mom,